Welcome back to the National Hurricane Center. This is Ken Graham bringing you, basically taking our operations right here in Miami, Florida, and bringing it to you live with the latest updates on Hurricane Ida. 10 a.m. Central update. We still have 150-mile-per-hour winds. Thanking the hurricane hunters from NOAA and the Air Force getting out there, getting us this information, flying through the center and the outside, and helping us not just with the pressure, the location, the wind, but the structure too, which has so much to do with our forecast of storm surge and who's going to get winds. The movement northwest at 13 miles per hour. That's the latest information. We're about, looks like 85 miles south of New Orleans, to give you any idea. New Orleans being about here, so that right there is approximately 85 miles, to give you a location. There's the center. Here's the Louisiana coast. We're getting closer and closer to making landfall. That's going to happen this afternoon. A couple observations on this radar. You have that center core, but you notice outside of it, we got a secondary eyewall forming. Usually what that really represents is the wind spreading out a little bit. So I think that wind field's going to grow over the next few hours, and we're going to see that as we make landfall. The other thing to watch here, the big impacts. I mean, we have a catastrophic event on hand here, a life-threatening situation around the center, but it's also well away from the center where you see these rain bands. And look how far away some of these rain bands are. To give you the size of this storm, Dauphin Island getting some of this rain. You can see some flooding. Pensacola Beach, Fort Walton Beach, well away from the storm. You can see some of those rain bands. And generally speaking, you look at the movement on that right front quadrant up in here, you can see places that could get tornadoes. That includes the Mississippi coast up to Hattiesburg, back through Mobile, Pensacola. Any one of these areas could see some of these tornadoes, so that's one of the hazards. So that's what we're looking at. Around this core, just incredibly dangerous winds, and we're going to see a graphic that really represents that. This is the brand new forecast that we have right there at 10 o'clock Central, just off the coast of Louisiana. With time moving northward, look, you're going to start off with 150-mile-per-hour winds. It's going to take time to get those winds to come down. So you're still going to see, not just along the coast, you're going to see hurricane-force winds stretch inland into Baton Rouge, still tropical storm force as you get into portions of southwest Mississippi. So put that rainfall on top of the winds. It's a lot of power outages, a lot of trees down. And with the wind, of course, structural damage as well, just catastrophic damage associated with a storm this strong. This is important. So we talked about that wind field on the radar. So right there's the center. The actual hurricane force winds are stretching out about, the last I saw was about 52 miles in that northeast quadrant away from the center. So the way to think of it is not just one point, it's a swath of winds. So if you think about going along our forecast, you can see just how wide those hurricane force winds are from that center. So looking at the center, of course, catastrophic damage with that, but hurricane force winds stretch out 50 miles. So you're talking, still St. Charles Parish. You talk about Jefferson Parish, Orleans Parish, New Orleans, North Shore, St. Tammany Parish. Any one of these areas could see those hurricane force winds. So you think about, and if you're in New Orleans watching, you could get hurricane force winds as this stretches, even though the center is well to your west. It doesn't matter. You're still going to have those winds. You're still going to have gusts 100 miles an hour associated with this storm. So that's damaging. You'll see structural damage, power outages, and you need to make sure you take steps to be in a safe place. So important. We were talking about it just before going on with this broadcast. So important. It's coming. So wherever you are, that's where you need to be. It's going to be too dangerous to be outside. Be in a safe place. Make sure you're in that safe place to get through this storm. So stay safe before, during, and of course afterwards as well. So that's what we're looking at. We're going to look at those winds. I think it's really good to look at this because it gives you an idea, narrowing down around this eye wall where you're going to see the strongest winds associated with that. Extreme wind warning issued by the National Weather Service office in Slidell. They're going to write out this storm in Slidell, but they're still going to get you the information that you need. The dedicated folks there are just, they're getting it done. Look at some of these areas: Port Sulphur, Barataria, Leeville, Galliano, La Rose, Dulac, Cocodrie, Homa. I really want to talk about some of these places. Also, you think about areas around Grand Isle, Port Fourchon. They're going to take the brunt of the hurricane force winds in that center core, the highest winds. And the reason it looks like this is because you can get some wiggles and wobbles back and forth. So any one of these areas could see the highest winds and the greatest damage associated with the storm. However, it's important to know, remember we talked about that 50 miles? Well, here we go. Anywhere in red, This is their hurricane warning from Plaquemines Parish up through St. Bernard, St. Tammany up to Washington Parish, Baton Rouge, South Shore, including the Metro New Orleans area. Any one of these areas could see hurricane force winds, and that means damage. That means structural damage, power outages, trees down. And look at this huge area of tropical storm force. So if you're watching from other areas, Mobile, the Mississippi coast, central Mississippi, even up through Monroe, any one of these areas can see significant amount of wind with tropical storm warning in these areas. So a pretty dangerous situation. And let's go into the water. We've covered the wind, very catastrophic wind damage. I want to talk about the water. 90% of fatalities in these tropical systems comes from water, and we're starting to see some rises. Here's Pilot Town. Here's a good idea. These purple lines, as we go through some of these graphics, the purple lines represent when you start to see some inundation, when you start to see some roads being cut off. You start seeing these values above that, the water's coming in. The water's there. So Pilot Town, we're seeing some of that. We're seeing that at, east of the portion of the Southwest Pass. New canal station starting to come up. I just wanted to show you the water coming up. Significant amount of water coming up. Bay Waveland Yacht Club, been there many times. You can see how steep this water is rising above this point of inundation. Pascagoula, we have a NOAA lab, the good folks over there, and you're starting to see some water rises. And look at Shell Beach. So the point here is that the storm surge is coming in, and I wanted to show you the ground truth. Normally we look at this forecast, but sometimes it really helps to see graphs, live graphs, that the water is actually coming in to let you know how real this is. Port Fourchon over the mouth of the Mississippi River, that's where we expect the highest values of this storm surge. Why? Well, that's our forecast. So the center of the storm, we're forecasting to come in somewhere like this, really impacting Grand Isle. Port Fourchon taking the brunt of that. And right along that center, right along the right portion of that center, you get the highest storm surge. And that's why we're highlighting that. However, remember that wind field. We talk about 50, 52 miles away from the center. That means you can still get strong winds blowing the water in this surge from the mouth of the Mississippi River up to Bay St. Louis. Some of these areas could see significant amount of storm surge, 8 to 12 feet, even into Lake Pontchartrain here through the Wrigley's, 5 to 8 feet of storm surge. So dangerous situation for these areas, and look how far away, even Mobile, getting 3 to 5 feet of storm surge. And by the way, these values, it's inundation, it's water. Your 8-foot ceiling or your 10-foot ceiling, I mean, think about values 8 to 12. That's your ceiling and above in some of these areas. So life-threatening rainfall as well. Look at some of this. A large area, portions of Hancock County up to Pearl River County, back towards the entire metro area of New Orleans, even St. Charles Parish up to St. Tammany. You get the picture. This whole area in red, that's 10 to 15 inches of rain. Even some of these purple areas, 20 inches of rain. So besides all the storm surge, besides all the wind, we're going to dump a life-threatening amount of rain on top of these areas. Mobile, back through the Mississippi coast, even central portions of Mississippi, 6 to 10 inches of rainfall. So significant event underway. A couple of reminders. We went through all the parameters here. We always talk about staying safe well before and during. It's not going to be fun after this storm. You're going to lose power. You're going to have debris. It's going to be significantly challenging. Please, if you're going to use a generator, please keep those generators out of the house, out of the garage, well outside, away from open windows. We need you to stay safe. If you're in a safe place, stay there through this storm. We're going to get through it together. This has been Ken Graham at the National Hurricane Center in Miami, Florida.